Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, what's going on, Missouri Naro? I'm excited to be with you here today, and we will be talking about um, a topic that many of us have a difficult time with. Stress management. Yes, stress management. Um, it's always an honor and privilege for me to join the Naro family and do these speaks. Um, Doing it virtually is something totally new. I've done probably 4 of these, I think, now virtual. Prefer them in person, but virtual, cool too. You can still get the information. Um, Again, my name is Joseph Fluellen. I'm your neighbor from Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? Hello, y'all. I've served the Tulsa Housing Authority now for just over 20 years, off and on, in different capacities. And I do have a shameless plug, as Michael was telling you. And in this shameless plug, there we go. I believe that everybody should have access to training. Training is a great way to help you get inspired, to encourage you, to recharge your batteries. That's why we go to trainings. It gives us an opportunity to separate from things that we've been in the grind with, to recharge ourselves. And so I would love to provide training for you, your staff, your church, other organizations. And if you hang with me to the very end, I'll have my contact information for you. If you also email me, I can send you a list of classes that I do teach and cost and all that stuff. Also, if you would purchase my book, Why I Smile, One Christian's Journey, you're going to see on the title of the book there, it says Joseph Andre. It doesn't say Joseph Fluellen. That's my writer's name. I was an at-risk youth, and my older brother helped to raise me. So to honor him, I use that as part of my writing name. So Joseph Andre. A portion of the proceeds from the sale of my book and speaking engagements that I have go towards helping single moms and at-risk athletes. So it helps me in our community so that I can help others. The more you make, you're supposed to have more you can give away. And so as many of these as I can book, the better. We've helped single moms redo their homes, add fencing, help electrical, car, insert lights, redo floors, all kinds of things. So appreciate your support. For athletes, it's athletic training. I travel with the teams. I've been working with at-risk high school football teams for 21 seasons. And again, as an at-risk youth myself, it was a matter of my friends had doctors they could go to, or they had trainers that they could go to. I didn't have that. And so my minor's actually in athletic training. And so now I travel with the team. I make sure that they stay healthy. I'm able to do the preventative wrapping or taping that they need before games. So again, it helps those athletes as well with if they need cleats, if they need to eat. You know, we have some athletes who just don't eat because they feed their brothers and sisters, the younger brothers and sisters. So again, it's fully encompassing, and we have an opportunity to serve many folks. So again, I appreciate that. So before we jump into this whole thing, I have a story that I'd like to read to you. It's about being stressed out. I urgently needed a few days off of work, but I knew that the boss wouldn't give me any time off. And I thought, if I acted crazy, they would tell me to take a few days off. So I hung from the ceiling, made funny noises, and my coworker walked by and asked, "What are you doing?" And to which I said to her, "I'm acting like a light bulb. And if the boss thinks that I'm crazy, he'll send me home." A few minutes later, the boss walks in and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" To which I told him I was a light bulb. And he said, clearly, you're stressed out. and we need to send you home. So as I was leaving, my coworker followed me out the door, and my boss stopped and said, "No, wait a minute. Where do you think you're going?" To which she replied, "I'm going home too. I can't work in the dark." All right. Yeah, okay, so I do have training expectations. I have I wills, you must, and you have the right to. So I will use sports analogies, I will use stories just as I did there, and personal examples. But it's up to you to apply those things. Chinese philosopher once said, "What I hear, I forget. What I see, I remember. But what I do, I understand." So I'm going to ask you to press in and not just hear what I'm saying, but I want you to also participate, see what we're talking about, and then apply it so that you'll understand it and remember it for a lifetime. Okay? Also, if you would, you must place all cell phones, electronic devices on stun or vibrate, right? Some of you are like, "What do you mean stun?" Do you remember when the phones, we first got them and it had that vibrate mode and you put it in your back pocket and then someone calls you and it goes off and it's like, "Ah!" Remember that, right? So stun, right? Vibrate. Okay. So anyway, please be sure that you do that. It will take away some of the distractions so that you can press in and gather this information. Also, please participate. Hopefully you printed off the supplemental information or sheets so you can follow along. Be sure that you have your pen, paper, but most of all, have fun today. This conference is to help recharge you and to get new ideas on how to do things, so have fun with it, okay? And then you have the right to. You have the right to nod, smile. I notice that some of you are overachievers. You're smiling and nodding, right? Okay. You can cheer. You can dance in the privacy of your own space if you can relate to some of the things that I'm talking about. Okay. Are we good? All right. Love it. Let's get into this. So here's the first thing. I have a slide that I'd like to show you, and it's a quote. And in this quote, I would like you to think about it and then respond. So Michael will be able to hopefully call on one of you and then you can kind of give your input on it, okay? So here is the quote. "Worry and stress makes people prisoners of the past, victims of the present, and slaves of the future." So what does that mean to you? So hopefully, Michael, if he's still around, and I don't see him around. Okay, that's all right.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I gave them the quote. If you can call on and unmute somebody there to give their input on this quote, I'd appreciate it. Is there someone who would like to? Go ahead.
I clicked on Carrie.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
So what that quote means to me, is that what you're asking, Joseph?
Yes, yes.
I mean, if you, and I think I have lived this prior to COVID, but I seem to always worry and stress about things that may not even be relevant, may not even happen. But that it doesn't allow me to move forward. So that's going to make me a prisoner of my past, victims of the present and slaves of the future. So, I mean, honestly, I think I probably speak for a lot to say I'm living it now, but honestly, it's like tenfold because I've always been a person of high anxiety. I stress on things that are like 1% chance of happening. So when something like COVID comes along and you're responsible for you, your staff, and then how many other families you're responsible for, it's overwhelming. So sitting there worrying about it and stressing on it doesn't allow me to do whatever I need to do to take preventative measures, move forward, learn from it, and go from there. So
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that input. Do we have one more person who'd like to, and there's no wrong answer. We're just trying to find out where you fit into this quote. Someone else, please. Looks like Carrie is unmuted.
Any volunteers?
Already spoke.
Oh. No other volunteers?
How about Yvette? Will you share with us?
Oh, we got some shy folks, huh?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you, Cindy.
Okay, we tend to sometimes go with the prisoners of the past because our staff is getting over some really horrible things. And sometimes, luckily we have each other to turn to and, bounce things off of. And sometimes, that makes us have trouble with the present because having to get through each day and we discover things every day that it just stops us, and we keep trying to move forward. And sometimes just when we think we take 2 steps forward, we end up a step back because of where the housing authority was in the past. So we are having difficulties getting through that, but I am grateful for the girls sitting here with me because we do take time in our lives and we actually do pray together. And I know we can't probably say that, but we do rely on each other. If I'm having a bad day, they understand, vice versa.
Okay. Nice.
Very well.
We appreciate that.
Learning to let go and let God, right, Joseph?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We all have a plan, right? We just have to find that purpose and lean into our purpose. So absolutely. Okay, so then if I said this, stress in one word, what would it be? One word, stress.
Sleepless.
Okay, someone else? Wow, we got a shy group this time, don't we?
Repeat the question one more time, Joseph.
I
Okay.
wanted to hear her response, sorry.
Okay, so stress in one word, what would it be?
What was the first response? I didn't hear it.
Sleepless.
The unknowing. Unknowing.
That's good. I like it.
The uncontrolled.
Uncontrolled. Okay, that's a good one.
Did you think you panic? Panic?
Say it one more time.
Panic.
Panic.
Panic. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you for those responses. So it sounds like to many of you, stress is a negative thing, has a negative connotation to it. Is that right? So did you know that stress is both good and bad? Hard to believe, isn't it? So stress is good because when you're given a task, have you ever noticed that when you have a deadline and you're really focused on the deadline and everything else does not matter, but you got to get that thing finished, it keeps you hyper-focused, doesn't it? That's a part of what stress does. It keeps you hyper-focused, right? Now, stress becomes bad when it's sustained over a long period of time. That's when it's bad, okay? So here's an example. Here is a phone book. And again, some of you are like, what's a phone book, right? Before phones, we had to look people up in a phone book, right? And so if I hold this phone book out with one arm, just like this, there's a stress that's happening in the muscles in my shoulder. Now, if I stay like this, after a couple of minutes, this phone book is going to start to drop closer and closer to the table because I've overstressed the muscle. Does that make sense? So when you're in a stressful situation, if you don't have an opportunity to take the phone book and and set it down and let the muscle recover before you pick it back up again, this is a healthy way to do it. You have to be able to put the thing down from time to time. And I'll give you some strategies today on how you can do that. Okay? All right. So our bodies, when stress takes over, puts us in a survival mode. So you've probably heard of this, fight or flight, right? Over the last probably 10 years, I found another one that should be added to that list. It's fight, flight, or freeze, right? So just like with Halloween coming up, you have someone who is dressed out in a costume, right? And they're holding a jar of candy or a bowl of candy. And the kids think it's a mannequin or a doll of some sort, and they're just holding the candy. And then the kids come up and they reach into the candy dish to take something for trick or treat, and the person goes, ah, and scares the kids. Well, if they're a freeze, those are the kids who, when they get startled, the adrenaline goes through their body and that surge hits them, and it's like they freeze like deer in headlights, right? Or have you seen those goats when you go behind a baby goat and you scream and it stiffens up and falls over? Freeze. Yet there's another one, which is the flight, which means they run for self-preservation. So once again, holding the candy dish, they reach in, and then the person goes, ah, and then they go, ah, and then they run. And then yet there's the third one, which is the fight, right? Holding the candy dish, they're reaching in, and then they go, ah, and then they go, ah, pow, and they punch them, and you find it on America's Funny Videos, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. So when that adrenaline pumps through our body, it gives us an opportunity for self-preservation. That's why that happens. Now, in November, I'll be teaching a class on public speaking. And have you noticed when you do public speaking, sometimes when you're reading, your eyes are darting all over the page and you have a hard time figuring out where you were on the last sentence, or you start to hyperventilate? Well, those are all stress related. What about the voice? You start talking and then your voice starts to crack and it does that funny thing, right? It's stress related. So again, if you take that class, the webinar, we'll talk all about how to handle those stress instincts that take over your body when you make presentations, okay? So let me get back to this. So when we're dealing with the burdens of life, here are some life lessons. Number one, accept some days that you're the pigeon, and on the other days, you're the statue. Always keep your words soft and sweet, just in case you have to eat them. If you can't be kind, at least have the decency to be vague. If you lend somebody $20 and you don't see them again, it was probably worth the $20. Never put both feet in your mouth at the same time. It won't leave you a leg to stand on. And when everything is coming your way, you're probably in the wrong lane. So we need for you to be stress-free so that you can do the job you're commissioned to do, right? So there was a 5-year study that was done, and it found that 30% of employees felt either often or very often burned out in their jobs and stressed out in their jobs. 27% feel emotionally drained by their jobs. And 42% feel used up at the end of the day. Now, I can tell you, in the jobs that we do in housing, I'll bet you those numbers are even higher than that. You know, the job that we do, sometimes it's it feels like a thankless job that no one no one understands the stuff we go through to help folks become self-sufficient. And it's like you're scraping and binding and doing all that you can to help folks. But all they see is, you're not helping me. It's a thankless job, isn't it? May I encourage you? First of all, not everyone can do this kind of work. That's the truth. So if no one's ever told you this before, let me be the first. Thank you for what you do. I was an at-risk youth myself, and I wish I had the professionals like you guys helping us in our family. So thank you for what you do. Now, most of us who work in this field, in your backgrounds, you've experienced this either directly or indirectly. Poverty. Maybe it was you, or maybe it was a brother, sister, uncle, aunt, someone close to you. So you get to see it firsthand. And from that, you want to make a difference. And that's where your passion comes from, your drive. There's nothing wrong with that. But we have to remember that our backgrounds, the things that we see and experience, helps us do our jobs better. I've gone through a lot of hard things in my life. If you read my book, you'll see that. But I've gone through a lot of hard things in my life. But I can tell you, all those things work together for the good. And I can see now where those things take place and how they all fit together. You're the same way. It reminds me of a quote that I just love, absolutely love. And it says that our backgrounds and circumstances may have influenced who we are, but we are responsible for who we become. Although we have all those things in our past, it's those experiences that help us reach others. Now, would you rather take advice from a single mom who successfully raised 3 kids in public housing, or a PhD who's never raised a kid in their life? Now, don't get me wrong. I highly esteem the PhD. Absolutely. But there's a thing that's different in book smart and life smart. So for me, I'm listening to the single mom who has that life or practical experience. That makes sense? You're the same way. You have that stuff in your background that when other folks can't understand or relate to them, you can. And you have the temperament, the grace to be able to deal with them in the things that they're going through. So again, thank you for what you do. Saying that, I need to make sure that you don't burn yourself out, because if you're in a bad mood all the time, who's going to listen to you? I won't. Neither will your residents. So it's important for you to be able to take a breath, evaluate where you are, stay fresh, and help folks. So here's what I'm going to have you do. We're going to take a quiz, right? Are you burned out? So in your supplemental information or supplemental sheets, it should have been in that packet with you. Now, if for some reason you were unable to gather that and print it before this session, no worries. I've actually put it. Okay. All right. So let's take a look and see what these numbers mean. Okay. So if you scored 20 to 40, you're doing really well. So I can tell you from experience that from this group we have today, we probably have nobody in that range. Now, there may be one, but typically not, because those folks who would like to get more information, or people that feel like they're having a difficult time and they're looking for strategies for stress management, take this class. So from 41 to 80 in that range, That's going to be the majority of you in this class today. It's great that you're here. It's great that you're getting information. But again, you have to apply the stuff for it to work. Well, Mr. Joseph, I've done this before and it's just not working. Well, have you ever listened to music, let's say 10 years ago? And when the music came on, you cranked up the radio and you were like, wow, this is great. What a song. This is awesome. And then when you turn it on today and you listen to the words, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that's what it was saying. It's terrible. How many of you have done that before? Yeah, me too. Training's the same way. You can hear things over and over, but sometimes it takes a little while before it's planted in a receptive heart who can hear it and apply it. And when you do, things change. Okay? All right. So hopefully you're not burning out. If you wind up in the 81 to 100, typically those are the folks who've already quit their job or right now thinking about quitting their job because you're burned out. To not get to that point, you have to understand what your purpose is. Why did you go to work for that agency? If you know that, it makes an entirely different view of how you take in information. So know your why you're there, your purpose. Okay? All right. So now I have top 20 stressors in life. Top 20 stressors. If you take a look at the very first one, death of a spouse. Now, I've been married for 32 years. God bless her. I have not always been a good guy, right? But death of a spouse is so difficult because have you heard that opposites attract? So in areas where I'm weak, she's strong. In areas where she's weak, I'm strong. So when you put us together, we make a force that's hard to reckon with. So there are things that I don't have an easy time doing, and I will defer it to her, and likewise. Make sense? So if you lose a spouse, you feel like you lost a part of you. Let's look at number 2 and number 3, divorce and separation. You come together and you get married, and it's like, I'll do this for life. And then you find that opposite person where you say, you're so funny, you know everything. You don't meet a stranger, you talk to everyone. This is awesome, because that's your weakness. And after several years of marriage, you now despise the thing that attracted you in the first place. And it turns into, all right, Mr. Know-it-all. What, you think you know? Just shut up. You can't just shut your mouth for 5 seconds. It becomes a point of contention. Stress. Let's jump down to number 7, marriage. Well, in marriage, it's supposed to be the best time, the best day of your life, where you're sharing your life with a person that's your best friend. But where does the stress come in? Well, if any of you got married, you know exactly. You have caterers, right? You've got the bridesmaid, you got the groom, which is yourself, if that's you. You've got the best man, all of her folks. Who do we invite to the wedding? Who do we not invite to the wedding? Whose feelings are going to get hurt if we don't invite them to the wedding? The cake, the dress, the tuxedos, flights in, out, the venue, the pastor, the church. Stress. Stress. Look at number 10, retirement. A time when we feel like I can now put everything down and not worry about a single thing anymore. And it makes the top 20 list. So let me give you an example. For me, I wake up every morning right around 4 o'clock. And some of you were like, what? 4 o'clock? Yes, I grew up in a military family. My father was a career Marine. And before the sun would break, he would get us all up. And I haven't woken up to an alarm clock in over 20 years. It's the same, about the same time every morning. Now, I'm about 7 years off from retirement, but I have many other things that I'm involved with. But this is typically what my day would look like. I wake up at 4 in the morning. I go to the living room. I find my quiet time. I read my Bible. I may listen to some messages from different pastors. I may be doing some work, just like for this conference. I go through and redo, and in this conference material, I didn't just write it and then just today present it. I've been working on this for a while. After this is completed, my wife then, she's a school teacher. She wakes up at 5:30 in the morning and she jumps into the shower. So for me, then at that time, I go into the bedroom, I make the bed, I turn on her local news. She likes to find out what's going on in the community before she heads out. I bring her a fresh glass of water so she can take her meds in the morning. Then I head out into the living room, straighten up some of the things that are there, go right to the kitchen. I make her breakfast. Yes, I make her breakfast. And then I also pack her lunch. Wow, what a guy. He packs her lunch. Saves me a lot of money. Ulterior motive. No, just kidding. But I pack her lunch. Then I feed the dog. Then I let the dog out to use the restroom. And then I hear her come out. I bring her breakfast so she can have breakfast while she's getting ready for the day. Then when she completes all that stuff, she comes out, give her her lunch, kiss, kick her out the door. Then I get ready for the day. I get in the car, drive to work, do what we do all day long. Drive back through traffic, meet up with the wife, let the dog out one more time. We spend the first 20 minutes and we engage to find out how our days went, things that we need to listen to or give our 2 cents on. And then we start all over again the next day. Sound familiar? So Mr. Joseph, how does that relate to retirement? Okay, so that's a typical day that I have. In retirement, I'm still gonna wake up at 4 o'clock. I'm still gonna go to the living room and have my quiet time. I'm still gonna read my Bible. I'm still gonna listen to some pastors. But I know my wife, she's not waking up in retirement at 5:30 in the morning. She's probably gonna do her Saturday thing where she wakes up at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And after she wakes up, I'm sure I probably will make her breakfast. And then I make her breakfast, and that's it. Now, what do you do the rest of the day? If you don't have a plan for what you're going to do, you'll wind up in that stress mode, just like this, and making the top 20 list. My father, when he retired from the Marine Corps, he was like, done with that, I can do anything I want to. I'm the man, you can't tell me what to do. After about a week, we were like, Pops, you need to go find a job or something because you can't hang out here. Someone understand what I'm saying, right? And let's skip all the way down to the very last one there, number 20, mortgage or loans or major purchases that you make. Are you living outside of what you can afford? It's like sometimes you go to a car dealership and you're looking at a car and they tell you how much you can afford to buy. Well, they always take you on the upper end. So what happens if you can't quite make that payment? Or you have to make the payment, but you now can't eat. That's a whole nother class in itself, but being able to put money aside and put yourself in a level of where you feel comfortable, and at the same time, be okay, be content. And all these things work in seasons, right? So there are stress triggers, things that set you off. So here's the first one, time pressures. Time pressures. we're all under deadlines. But if you plan appropriately, you won't have to worry about constantly holding the phone book and burning out. By planning, you can actually set the book down from time to time and live through it. Time pressures. Have you heard this saying before? A failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Right. Or are you the one who at the 9th hour rallies everybody together because you need it done in 2 hours? And so everyone's running around like a chicken with their head cut off trying to meet a deadline. Well, that's how you burn people out. Well, Mr. Joseph, I don't have time to plan. Well, I'm here to tell you I was the same way. I learned by planning, you take away a lot of those stressors. You have a plan A, plan B, and a plan C. So for me, even though I'm teaching this class, our plan B is we have backup things. And if I could show you this room, it's incredible. There are monitors everywhere. There's lights coming from different directions. I have a clock that's running for me up high, notes to the right, big screen here in the center. You guys are actually to my right. So when you see me looking in this direction, I'm actually looking at you guys. Right. But you have to have a plan B and C, so if something goes wrong, you're not stressed out. Make sense? How about this? Major life changes. When you go through major life changes, it elevates your stress levels. Now for me, I learned that I wasn't going to play professional sports. I really thought I was going to play football. And it didn't work out. So to stay fit, I started playing in adult leagues, you know, the flag football leagues, the softball leagues, that kind of thing, right? And got really competitive in softball. And so when I lived in Arizona, we play softball year round. The weather's good. Summertime, it's a little warm, but obviously we play at night. It's still a little warm though. Well, I can crank that ball over the fence. I can place it to where I want to. We were a hard team to beat because as I played left field, I can cover left field all the way to center all by myself. So everybody else moved into the gap. So it was hard to find a place for the opposing team to find a hole. And then when I left Arizona, I moved here to Oklahoma. Someone said, hey, we need an extra guy for softball. I was like, I can do this. And I got on the team and we started playing, and they play at night here in Oklahoma as well during the weekdays for the leagues. And so I get out to the ball field, dust off the cleats, pull out the bats. You know, we're kind of superstitious on the kind of bat we use and the batting glove. You know how that goes. So we have all that stuff set, and I get up to bat, and I'm thinking, we're going to crank this over the fence. We'll show Oklahoma what Arizona's like, right? Get up to bat, blooper. Hit it out to the field, they catch it. I didn't hit a home run all game long. And then when I covered left field, I thought, you know what? I've got all this covered. You guys scoot over. I did this in Arizona. I got you. Then I saw a ball hit to left field. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I got this. We're going to scoop it up. Then we're going to throw to second base, hold the runner, and I'm running full speed, and I can't get to the ball. I have to take it off of a hop. It's starting to get warm in here, isn't it? So I have to take it on a hop. I mean to tell you, when I left the game at the end of the evening, I went to my car, sat in the dark, and cried. A life change I was not expecting to see when I thought, this is something I can always do. Life change. Money problems, like we just talked about. Are you spending more than you should? There are plans of how you can get out of debt. Again, classes that I can teach in the future for you. Loneliness, what about that? I know a lot of people. I can be in a crowd of people and still feel alone. My son, the youngest one, he used to play football. And so I was thinking, this is going to be one of those, son's going to play football and he's going to make it where I didn't. Well, he was the top 100 players in Northeast Oklahoma. And I thought, here's his ticket. This is going to be great. And you know what happened? He decided he didn't want to play. He had an opportunity actually to focus on his music career. And that's where he is today. He lives in LA working on his music. Just released a single actually. But he's not a great singer, but he's good at writing lyrics. So that's what he does for a lot of artists right now. Now, spoken word, he's really good at. So now let's take a look at some stress signs and symptoms so that when you see them, you can recognize them, you can head it off, okay? So when we talk about stressors, they come in physical, emotional, mental, and behavioral. So when we talk about physical, those are things like headaches, stiff neck, back pain, frequently tired, upset stomach, muscle tension, trouble sleeping at night. Sound familiar? So let's tackle the trouble sleeping at night. That was me. Constantly thinking about all the things that we need to do. And so you wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking, what is it that okay, I got it. If we do, and then you have all those plans that you start to think about, and then you're thinking, if I go to sleep, I'll forget. Or you do go to sleep, and when you wake up, you thought, what was the idea that I had? And you can't remember anymore. Been there? What I do today is I keep a notepad by my bed with a pen. And when those thoughts come, I write them on the pad, and I place it by my bed, and I go to sleep. Everything is now listed so that in the morning when I wake up, I check the notepad to see if it's something I need to reflect on, right? The next one is emotional. Emotional. That's like anxiety, depression, extreme sadness, anger, hostility, impatience, irritability. Sounds like our day-to-day, isn't it? Then there are mental things that we're going to take a look at. And it's like poor concentration, hard to do things right the first time, right? You've done it a dozen times before, but when you're under stress, you can't get it right. It's like when I'm here at work and someone has a presentation that they have to make. We have 2 conference rooms. We've been blessed with that we have an area where we can do trainings at. And someone is trying to set up a presentation and they can't get it to function. They come right to my office because it's right next to the training centers. And they ask me for their help. And I walk over to the room thinking, plenty of time, we can get this thing situated, figure out what it is. But it's already 10 minutes into their presentation. The room is packed. And now I'm under pressure to get this thing to work. I've done it dozens of times before, but under that kind of pressure, it just doesn't feel like you can get it right. You know what I mean? And then forgetfulness. Forgetfulness. Have you ever left the house and you're thinking, what did I do with the car keys? And you start patting your pockets or you rummage through your purse looking for keys and you can't find them. Now we're stressed out because we can't get to work on time. Forgetfulness. Another area that I addressed in my home. I did that quite a bit as well. So now in my home, we have a place where keys are hung up. You come in through the garage, through the door, and right around the corner is a place where keys are hung up. My entire family is committed to, if we find keys anywhere in the house, you pick them up and you hang them up on the key, the key holder. Never lose the keys like that, right? And then finally, behavioral. This is difficult because it's like when we're not doing well and we're stressed out, we eat very poorly. Would you agree? We don't want to be burdened with having to cook an entire meal or eat something healthy. It's just easy to pick something up and just go on with it. So we eat unhealthy. If we smoke more. If we drink more, looking for a way to cover that thing up or to extinguish it, right? We become accident prone. We communicate very poorly. Just like when you're under stress, you're thinking, I just told them this, but what you've actually communicated was half the story. And issues come up. And then reckless driving. Have you ever, when you're on the freeway, you're driving, and in the rearview mirror, you see a car darting in and out of traffic? And there's this unsaid thing that when you see them and you've been waiting in this line long enough, you're not going to let them get by you. And the person next to you is the same way. And then you both see them and you make eye contact. You're like, mm-hmm. And you both speed up and that car comes right behind you and they can't go left or right. And they're flashing their lights behind you. You're like, oh, that's right. I'm going to fly this bird without a license. And of course, we wouldn't do that, right? But we're saying words that we don't want to say or don't feel like we should say. And then when we get to work, we're in such a bad mood, our staff gets the brunt of it. Been there. Here's what I do today. I see the car darting in and out of traffic. I already know he wants to get in front of everyone else, which is now a danger to everyone around me. I let go of the accelerator. I allow them to pass, and I drive to work unstressed. What did you lose in that entire process? Probably 5 to 10 seconds of travel is all you lost in that exchange. And you get to go to work in a good mood. Just let go of the accelerator. Not worth it. All right. Now, there are some responses to stress I'd like to share with you. And I call them the 4 A's, right? It's accept, avoid, alter, and adapt. So let's hit each one of those. The first one is accept. Sometimes that stressor, there's nothing, absolutely nothing that you can do except accept it. Death of a loved one. Nothing you can do about that. There is a season for mourning, but after that, you have to get on with your life. I've lost a lot of people in my life. I've had to learn to do this. I have to accept it and move on. The next one is avoid. I don't like being in traffic, so I avoid it as much as I can. Meaning that if I have to come to work during rush hour, I will come earlier than normal to avoid rush hour. And if I'm here late, like today, I'll be here a little later, which means 5:15, 5:30. I am not going home after this is over. I will wait till probably 5:45 and drive home. Why? Because all the knuckleheads at that point are already home and I don't need to worry about them. The next one is alter. Alter the way that you do things. It will help you tremendously. As an example, I have phone calls. Now, if you book me for a speaking engagement and you call me, I can tell you 9 times out of 10, you're just going to get my voice message. If I'm talking with another person, I will not pick up my phone. If I'm in the middle of working on a project that needs to be completed, I will not answer my phone. Because what happens is you start working on a particular thing and a phone call comes and you answer it. 15 minutes goes by on that conversation. And when you get back to the thing you were working on, you don't pick up where you left off. You have to back up a little bit, remember where you were, get in the same thought process and start again. Once you get going, the phone rings again, you pick up the phone, 10 or 15 minutes goes by, and once again, you've lost time. You go back to the thing you worked on, and you're behind the 8 ball again. And at the end of the day, you feel like you've been spinning your wheels and got nothing accomplished. You need to alter the way you do your work. Now, if you do call me, leave a message. If you don't leave a message, I will not call you back. I'm going to assume you had the wrong number. Okay? And then the fourth one, adapt. You have to be flexible. I know all of us don't have that same personality where we feel like it's my way or the highway. If you can't do it this way, heck with you. Well, you can't get work done like that. And if you do, you step on the people that are there to help you. You've got to learn to be flexible. And that was one thing, again, I had to learn to do as well. I thought I had all the right answers, but I don't. Surprise. And neither do you. Sometimes you're going to find your staff have better ideas than what you came up with. Adapt. Be flexible. Now, let me give you these few things to help you manage your time. And then we're going to start to wind this thing down, okay? So the first thing is simplify your life. Simplify your life. Now, some of you have kids and they have you running a bus. You're the chauffeur taking them to and from practices. And when one season ends, they're in another sport and then another sport and then an activity. And then they got a school event and you're constantly running and running and you can't get your things done. Anybody relate to that? So what can I do, Mr. Joseph? They want to play the sports and I want to give them the opportunity. What can I do? Here's what I did with my kids. You do whatever you want, but here's what I did with my kids. When they first started out, we allowed them to experience every sport we can come into contact with. And after that, you need to pick two sports that you're going to play. And then practices are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and games were either Friday or Saturday. We found another responsible parent we carpooled with. So we may have been Monday, Wednesday, and the other family would have Tuesday, Thursday, and we all met up for the games on Friday or Saturday. If you need more time than that, then you can also lean into your significant other or a family member who might want to take one of those days. So then now you're only one day a week, and then that other person does it one day a week. Then you have the other family who has those 2 days a week, and then you meet at a game. Simplify your life. Simplify it. The next thing is combine similar tasks. Just like with a phone call, if you don't put similar things together, our minds are created so that we're able to do things repetitiously. And when you change the flow, it takes us a little bit to shift gears to do an activity. So do things that are similar in task, and you're going to find out that you actually work faster. So if you're doing filing on a certain day, that's when you're going to file. You'll notice the first few that you start to file are kind of slow, but your mind will start to pick up and you're going to notice that you file quickly at the end. That will never happen if you have other activities that you're doing and then you pick up filing again and it'll be slow like you did in the very beginning. That make sense? So combine similar tasks. Also, breaking big things into smaller tasks to do. How do you eat an elephant? The answer, one bite at a time. That's right. So you want to look at that entire thing that you're working on and break it into phases. When you completed the first phase, then you move to the second phase. When you completed the second phase, then move to the third, and so on until you get it completed. And then you can look back at the totality of what you've completed and be proud of what you finished. One step at a time. If not, you'll be stressing out constantly. Now, if you're talking about staff, how do you get them to do it? I do check-ins with my staff once a week. So if it's it needs to be done in a month, we assign the thing, and after the first week, we meet. How are we doing on it? Do you need help? What can I do to assist you? What tools do I need to put in your hands? all those kinds of questions. And then week 2, they should be about halfway done with everything, midway, right? And if they're not, okay, so what can we do to help you? Do you need more people to assist you? And you keep putting it on them to complete it, and you just do check-ins. It's not to stress them out, it's to hold them accountable, but also if you don't mention it, it goes on the back burner. And then the day before you ask, have you completed the task? And it's like now they're the chicken with their head cut off and they're running around and nothing gets done. And then finally, one of the hardest things for many of us is ask for help. Don't wait until the 12th hour, the 9th or 12th hour to, hey, I need help, I can't get this done. It has to be done in an hour. If you're on task and it looks like you're not going to make your deadline, we need to speak up. Hey, this is where I am on the project that I'm working on. I think I might need some assistance with such and such. Ask for help when you need it. So now what can you do to decrease your stress levels? Yes, exercise. It is not a cuss word. We have to exercise and relax, all right? So exercise doesn't mean you have to be at the gym working out. Exercise just means you have to be active. In this building, as I'm working, I take short breaks and I walk this building to burn off excess energy. Like now, it's starting to get warm again, right? So as it gets warm, we have to make sure that we cool ourselves down, right? Exercise, what is it good for? Burns off excess energy, like we talked about. It strengthens our immune system. It relaxes our bodies and it reduces muscle tension. All the things that we just talked about to reduce stress. So what can I do physically to help myself? Well, that's the relaxation part. There's muscle tension and breathing techniques, right? So if you will participate with me, you're going to sit flat, feet on the floor, hands in your lap, looking straight ahead. Okay, hands in your lap. I can see y'all. Thank you. All right. Now we're doing it. All right. So then what I want you to do is ball up your fists and squeeze really tight, real tight, real tight. And then relax your hands and lay them on your lap. Can you feel the difference in the tension in your hands and in your forearms? Let's do it one more time. Ball up, make a fist, squeeze, 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 and relax. Place them on your lap. Again, feel the difference? Let's take our shoulders now and take them up to our ears. Press them up and squeeze. Don't get a cramp though. And then long neck, drop the shoulders. Long neck, drop the shoulders. Can you feel the difference in the tension levels in your neck? Let's try it one more time. Up to the ears, squeeze, squeeze, and then relax, long neck. Feel the difference? Many of us sit behind a computer, and because we're behind a computer, our arms are up just a little bit, so all those muscles tighten up, and that's why we wind up with those sore necks, unable to turn our heads anymore, right? All right, and relax. Let's try the breathing part. You're gonna breathe through the nose. Again, feet are flat on the floor, hands in your lap. Breathe through the nose in a 2 count. You're gonna exhale out of your mouth a 4 count, okay? So through the nose, here we go. 1, 2, exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Through the nose, 2 count. 1, 2. Exhale out of the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time, through the nose. 1, 2. Out of the mouth. Can you feel how much more your body's relaxed now? And all we did was we tightened our muscles and we went through a short breathing exercise. When you feel yourself getting really tense, do this. It will help you tremendously. All right, so let's get down to the very end. We have an activity for you to do. We'll do the activity. I'll conclude with a short story and then we're out of here. So in this activity, And again, take this seriously. I'm not collecting your homework. This is for you. So as a result of the session, I'm going to do what? I'm going to start doing what? As a result of the session, I'm going to stop doing what? Oh, something Mr. Joseph said, I probably shouldn't do that. Yeah, that's what we need to stop doing. And then what am I going to keep doing? I'm really knocking it out of the ballpark here. I need to remember to keep doing that. So on your sheet of paper, write down, what are you going to start doing? What are you going to stop doing? And what will you keep doing? Okay, we'll do this for about 3 minutes. Now you've written down a few things that you're going to introspectively think about. Here are the things that we need to do differently, or the things I'm going to continue to do, or things that I'm going to stop doing at this point to help build those bridges instead of building the chasm between your relationships with other folks. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Let me end with a short story. And here's my contact information. So this is called Who Cares? Who Cares? A mouse looked through a crack in a wall in the farmyard. And in that crack, he saw there was something that really devastated him. The farmer and his wife opened up a package, and it was a mousetrap. And so the mouse ran back to the farmhouse yelling, "It's a mousetrap! It's a mousetrap!" And the chicken looked at him, and the chicken said, "Mr. Mouse, I can tell this is a grave issue or concern for you, but it doesn't concern me or has no consequence for me, so I can't help you." So Mr. Mouse ran over to the pig and he said, "Hey, there's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house." And the pig then looked at him and said, "Hey, I can sympathize with you. I'm very sorry, Mr. Mouse, but there's nothing I can do about it. Maybe you should go talk to the cow." So he runs over to the cow and he says, "There's a mousetrap in the house. There's a mousetrap in the house." The cow says, "Whoa, Mr." I'm assuming that's what the cow would sound like. "Whoa, Mr. Mouse. I'm really sorry for you, but it's no skin off of my nose." And so then the mouse felt dejected and he went back to the farmhouse, devastated. In the middle of the night, you could hear a sound of the mousetrap going off. And the wife runs downstairs, but she didn't see that there was a venomous snake that was caught by the tail in this trap. And as she got down to the trap, it bit her and made her very ill. So her husband takes her to the hospital. And after a night, is released to go home, but she's still sick. Everyone knows you feed a fever with fresh chicken soup. So the farmer went to the farmyard and got its first ingredient, pulling out his hatchet. But his wife's sickness continued. And as it continued, the neighbors sat around the clock with his wife. To feed them, he had to butcher the pig. And then, even later, the farmer's wife died. So many people came to the funeral that the farmer had to butcher the cow to feed all the people who were in attendance of her funeral. The mouse then looked out of the crack in that wall that he was in with much sadness. So the next time you hear someone is facing a problem and you think it doesn't concern you, remember this story. And when one of us is threatened, we're all threatened. We're all involved in this journey that we call life, and we must keep an eye out for one another and encourage one another. Thank you guys again. I feel so blessed to be with you today. Hopefully you were entertained a bit, but more than that, you gained a few nuggets to help you do better with stress. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Hope to hear from you in the near future. Thanks.
Thank you.